Good evening, everybody, and welcome again to the Borderline Podcast with me, your host, Andrew Willox. Guys, I'm going to start off this episode with an apology straight away, and I'm going to go into the details of that apology, obviously, throughout the episode. But I've been incredibly quiet on the podcast side of things, on all things on Instagram over the last month or so. Um, yeah, just not really been having a very good time, to be honest. So I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail. But obviously, I'm well aware that I'm 2 weeks behind on the paid subscription podcast that was meant to be putting out by now. But again, that's just been added pressure in the background that as I go into this episode a little bit further, you'll probably understand why I've not really had the time or motivation to come and do a podcast and talk about stuff. So yeah, this is even coming down onto this podcast today. This is taking quite a bit of effort, I must say. This is something that I've been putting off subconsciously in the back of my mind now for a couple of weeks, and I've known that it's going to be a tough one to do because I felt I felt so depressed for so long this year. Let's just get that one out of the way so far. So yeah, so I've not my last Hierarchs blah, blah, blah. My last podcast was obviously just after Hierarchs, which was the first weekend in March. And I know I've had a couple of guest interviews throughout them, but I've never came on and done a solo one. So here we are yet again. Thanks for everybody for joining in and listening to this episode. So yeah, what's all been happening? Quite a bit and not a lot. That makes sense. So we've been to Amsterdam. We've done quite a few things. We've been enjoying a little bit of life, and with that, it's been a horrendous balancing act, I would say. Pretty much from the start of this year, right through until today, and it's although it's getting better, it's a slow mover on this one. So to give you some context into why I've been putting this off, not really been putting this off, but just not really had the motivation. Is I need to cast our minds back all the way back to January when I was sat down just before a back shift, just like I am today, and I decided to come in and do a podcast, and that podcast was the gambling one. And before I go any further with this, I am not gambling again. This isn't the root of the cause for any of what I'm going to go on to. Well, it was initially years ago, but anyway, so yeah, so sat down and was doing the podcast for my gambling addiction and stuff like that, and then I had a bit of a light bulb moment, for to say the least, was when talking back, and obviously it's 2024 now, and I was using dates of 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. It dawned on me after actually listening back into that podcast, I was thinking, fucking hell, I've been struggling with the mismanagement of my finances since gambling. Now I've always had gambling debt. I was very honest about that and open about that in that gambling podcast, and that's something that I'm sure if anybody's had a gambling addiction, the two and two kind of go in hand, unless you're in a very securely financial position. The likelihood is if you gamble and if you're not gambling smartly, you're going to run into a little bit of debt at some point. That's completely subjective to each other's people, because each people can bet and gamble, I suppose, relatively to what they earn and what they expend on outside of that. So I was doing that podcast, and yeah, a bit of a light bulb moment. I was thinking, fuck me, I've struggled with this for absolutely years. Now, again, I'm going to say something else. Where I'm going to go into this is I am fully responsible at the end of the day, for my finances, and for I get my money paid in and I pay money out, and as I do as I please. But like I say, so I had quite a bit of debt racked up from the gambling addiction, and I've never missed a debt payment in my life. That's me being honest yet again. Touch wood. With that one, debt payments always came to the forefront before anything else. You clear your debt, and I've had no issue. I still have no issue paying off debts from former addictions that I believe needs to be paid, and that's pretty much where I'm at now. And yeah, so I was doing that podcast, and then probably to make sense as well, I'll just jump on here my distaste for the Conservative Party. So we're just going to go wrap into 2023 real quickly, and or 2022 actually, I should say. So we bought our house in 2018, and since then my mortgage payments have only went up, which the economy is absolutely shit. It has been for some time. That was to be expected. but the how volatile the increases were last year, because basically our fixed rate deal ended um, 3 days after Liz Truss's abomination of a budget, which obviously all the banks then pulled all their fixed rate deals for mortgages. You could then only slip onto a variable or a tracker rate. So I think from then I was already paying like an extra, 140 quid a month or something, which isn't massive on my mortgage. But like I say, when you've got these other debt payments and that you're still kind of keeping on top of, it plays in the back of your mind a little bit. And I was doing really well. I was clearing off quite a bit of debt. And basically, like I say, my mortgage payments then just started to jump considerably. When we hit the cost of living crisis in 2023, I still couldn't get on a trip. Well, like I could go into a fixed rate, but the fixed rates were like 800, 900 quid a month. I was just like, well, I can't afford that anyway, which is stupid because that's what I ended up paying anyway. Um, yeah, mortgages can be confusing if I found out. So basically, yeah, the best part of 2023, I guess, was kind of just chasing my tail. And with that, when the mortgage payments were hitting their top reach of 350 £400 extra a month, and I was still making the debt payments, it left me with absolutely nothing. So when we look at 2023 at the big picture, what all went on that year, that obviously didn't help. I know I've never really been open with that side of this before, so let's say kind of doing this episode's a bit of a step and leap for me. I think we're quite bad at times that finances and money is almost stigmatized like mental health. Nobody really wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to admit when they could maybe do a little bit of help, and it's really tough. It's so hard. It's so hard, and I understand that completely. It's like I say, it's taken a lot to come in and do this one today. So yeah. So like I say, I was making my debt payment still absolutely fine, but because of that, I was then reaching back out and spending on a credit card every month. Um, you know, if you'd I can't remember what the bloody saying is. You rob Paul to feed Peter or whatever it is. This was effectively what I was doing, and yeah, it just got tough. And like I say, it wasn't anything wild. I don't live a life of vanity. It was literally just spending money just to survive. Your food shops at the end of the month were on the credit card, and that started building back up. And basically, yeah, I kind of got to the stage that I hit that light bulb moment in January 2024 that I was just like, you know what? Yeah, like I absolutely understand. I'm completely responsible for gambling and debt related to gambling and everything else with that. And I was still very, responsible to make sure I made all them payments in 2023. But the additional payments when I was paying my mortgage were, that was completely unjustified and unfair. Like it has been for thousands and thousands of other people across Britain. This is why I hate the Conservative Party so much. I'm sorry if you vote Conservative. It's just something that me and you are never going to agree. We're never going to see eye to eye. I respect the reasons why you might, but for me, there's not a chance I'd ever tick that box come ballot day. Put it that way. And yeah, so I pretty much came at the end of that podcast, that gambling one, and I just felt so flat. I was just like, you know what? This has actually become exhausting. So kind of silver lining that the podcast kind of a little kind of irony that it really helped me. And so since then I reached out and I went into citizens advice and see what kind of just see if there was any kind of help out there and start exploring ideas because I couldn't keep on going on the way that was going. Although I just earned into a new fixed rate, which I'll go back onto in a little bit because that's just another headache that's just appeared. So yeah, I went to Citizen Rice try and get some help, and yeah, so I came back and I ended up going through like a payment plan kind of thing with step change. They kind of put me on the what can you afford, what's coming in, what's coming out, and basically from there I've went down. I'm not going to go into the details of this per se, but yeah, so I ended up going down the route of insolvency, which is quite scary, and it's not to be taken lightly. And so I went ahead and put myself into a protected trust deed. Long story short, with that is I'm still paying off debt. It's just at a much reduced rate, and it's a lot more manageable. So with that, everything's bright and coloured and stars and rainbows and unicorns and hoo ha, everything's going fine. But my God, it's taken a long time to kind of even itself out. Let's say we're now in the middle of April, and I'm now saying I'm just about ready to start talking about this kind of aspect of my life. I'm just kind of around the corner of being able to chat on my own thoughts enough to know that it is going to be okay eventually. In that it's it's I don't manage myself very well at times. I think maybe some neurodivergent people might relate to this when there's something that you know that you have to do and you just can't seem to do it. That's kind of what I've been like for the last like 3 months. I've had something to do. I've went and forgot about it, and it's kicked me in the ass. Well, not really kicked me in the ass, but then like you then remembered you had to done it. You've missed it. Like I meant about like standing orders for car insurance and car tax or something like that. Just happened to then go. Basically, yeah. Obviously because like I said, I'm not going to go massively into the deeds of the insolvency and trusted and that, but because I had to switch bank. It's just been a bit of a mess moving on with like my direct debits and that over. Some were missed, getting letters for that, and then some of my insurance were cancelled and having to then take that back out with different companies. It's just been for somebody that doesn't have the best mental health and keeping on top of the order of doing things, it's just been impossible. And I know we could sit and we could say, well, write a list, do this, do that. It just doesn't work for me sometimes. And that's me just being honest. I just can't seem to hit that switch just now where it's just like, right, sit down for a minute, 5 minutes, and just sort through this fucking shit. And I've not been able to do that. And that again, that's just came with the stress of the situation that I've just wanted to avoid, and distance myself as much of it from it as possible because it's been a complete behavioral change. So basically, obviously now, like I've no access to debt, which is absolutely terrific. That's a good thing about it. But having a year that I'm not, yeah, I pretty much did rely on it. And then changes, finances don't get immediately better straight away. It's taken a little bit of time to iron through these creases. And like I said, we're starting to see light now. We are starting to see light now, but it's just been a massive behavioral shift that I've had to go through, and it's been tough. It's been really, really, really tough because I've had such kind of high hopes for this year and just to kind of push on and push on and get things done. And this has been a massive, for me personally, this has been a massive knockback, for want of a better word, and to try and you know sit down and do any kind of podcast or anything like that. I just don't think it would have been a very good idea for me personally to come on and talk about how I felt until now. Now's just about the right time, and it's been noted as well. I have to say off the back of that, I've had a couple of people reach out and message me on the socials to say, you've been really quiet. Is everything okay? And speaking to Lachlan on that a couple of times at the gym, and that he's just brilliant mentor. As I like to call him that now. He doesn't know that. Even Lachlan, if you're listening, I just call you my mentor now, pal. Now he's been really good and just kind of helping me channel and what's important to me and in the environment, the negative things in your environment, try to push them to the side and just stay focused on the task at hand. But ultimately, I just had a great little conversation with him today, and he put it right. It's just like, you're what matters the most to you right now with what you're doing. So you just need to listen to yourself, and if that means taking the foot off the pedal again for a little bit, then that means taking the foot off the pedal, which is what I've had to do. So kind of annoyingly that April was going to be such a big month, but I must say, end of March, April, my days, yeah, I've been depressed. Just caught on just that cycle. You know what it's like that you think that everything's doom and gloom, then you start getting a little bit of energy back, and then you just get knocked back. Maybe spend 5 days thinking like that. You have 2 good days, things are going quite well again, and then you would just wake up that morning, and it's just like, here we fucking go again. We've got to try and put the smile on. You're like, well, yesterday you felt all right. Sorry, I'm just totally rambling to myself. At this point, I'm just rambling to myself, looking at a hedge. um, so yeah, it's been tough, but the good thing is I'm quite happy that we're coming out the other side of it now, and yeah. So the mortgage, like I've said, so the reason why it's taken so long is that obviously I entered a new fixed rate mortgage payments were meant to be a lot lower. Went for an insolvency case, got that all thingied. Then my last month's mortgage was back up to around about £190 more than what it should have been on the fixed rate, and it just turns out that that's what I was due for being on the cost of living support for the last 6 months, which is madness when I realise now the interest that I'm paying back off of that. It's just, please, I'm going to say this as a an informative thing for anybody listening with mortgages who's been feeling the financial burden of the economy over the last year or so. Maybe you're looking at cost of living support of that, which is absolutely fine to do if that's why it's there. Just be very, very, very careful, and please read and take advice as much as you can. I had to have taken the cost of living support at the time. There wouldn't have been the money in the account to pay for my mortgage last year. I think if I hadn't, I think after when the Bank of England done the hike last, I don't know when it was, maybe last February or something like that, I wouldn't have been far away from a grand a month on my mortgage, which I would say this year I started paying my mortgage at £440 a month. That's how bad the economy is, and that's after 6 years where it should be a lot lower than the initial payment. So yeah, again, conservatives, well done with that one. But like I say, don't want to bring politics into this podcast by any means, and especially not my beliefs in politics, because our beliefs will probably be a lot different, and I don't really want to offend anybody with saying what I think about certain political parties, because I know some people have it very close to their heart. So let's be smart with that one and just avoid it. So yeah, yeah, it's been an eventful 2024 for me. We've had a good couple of highs, obviously with the high rocks. That was incredible. Kind of bad thing. The bad thing about high rocks was I just got so injured from it. I'm still injured. Um, Kind of dealt with a bit of my right knee was just completely. I've had a little bit of an issue with my right knee and I'm not saying most of my life, but since maybe kind of like my early 20s. Yeah, I think it was more from I just used to play golf so much. I think that's probably where that's came from, basically. But basically, anyway, one quad is grown or slightly offset than the other. So basically, when my kneecap pulls, it pulls awkwardly on one side, and every now and then that can just it doesn't really fill up with fluid per se. That's just what it feels like. It's just swollen. It's incredibly sore. So basically, I had high rocks and before I go in talking about Amsterdam, I know people are going to turn around saying, "Why were you going to Amsterdam when you'd just been insolved?" I'm going to say this out here. I fucking needed to go on holiday. Um, I wasn't going to get a refund on anything I'd paid so far, so you know, I was quids in and not quids in, but I was pretty much, I was always going to go. And in light of everything else that was going on at the time, a couple of days away from Plymouth was much needed. I've just got to say on that as well, I was really, really, really happy with how my mental health generally was. I know going on holidays quite massive for those with anxiety. You are going into a totally unknown world. You're walking about different people, different towns, different cultures. It can be a little bit overwhelming at times for the eyes and the mind. And yeah, so to get through that pretty much entirely unscathed was pretty good. Amsterdam, a lovely place as per. It was absolutely Baltic. Nearly got mugged or stabbed, or shouldn't say stabbed. Thought I was going to get mugged off a hobo on our first night. That was thingy. And then met him again in a dark little area. About an hour later, that was absolutely terrifying. Not great for the anxiety, but we got through that one. And yeah, it was a really good trip. It was really nice. If anybody's been to Amsterdam before, really nice, really good coffee, and yeah, that's really nice. So that was good. I know, like I say, I know there might be people that saying, "Well, Andrew, you've just came on and you're talking about how skint you were in solvency, and then you went to Amsterdam." Like I say, that was paid for last year for a lot of hard savings. And me and Sass both needed that. We hadn't been on holidays since for a long time, for well, about nearly 2 years, best part of 20 months or something like that, since we'd even been away, even on a night out, I think, anywhere apart from Edinburgh earlier in the year. So it was much warranted. It was absolutely brilliant just to get away with a wife. It was that's my best friend, and yeah, it was fun. So I'm not regretful about. Well, I am regretful about going because it could have made the next kind of weeks a little bit earlier, but you know, balance that seesaw. So yeah, no. So high rocks and that. My shoulder's been absolutely wrecked since then. It still is. Even today, I went to try and do a little bit of legs, and I can't even really get my hand onto the bar to grab on well, where am I going with this? I'm trying to squat. Sorry, that's where I should have started. I was trying to do some squats today and even try to grab the bar. Really, really, really uncomfortable. So only I actually got 2 sets of squats done, then had to go into the hack. Just because it's just so awkward. So it is getting better. I'm starting to be able to do some like very light resistant band or lightweight kind of physio style, and it just now just to make sure it just gets a little bit of movement. And we don't shoulders are funny. You don't want them seizing up too long, like and so with that, I've obviously got the Edinburgh half coming up in 6 weeks' time, which preparation for that has been absolutely shocking. Let's not beat around the bush. Again, I'm not putting myself under more pressure here, but well, I am. Yeah, I've got 6 weeks to get ready for a half marathon. Um, Going back to the start of March, I wouldn't have been a million miles away physically from that. I think I was in really good shape come the middle of the start of March, just before High Rocks. Had it not been for injuries, had it not been for my negative mindset, and obviously the external pressures going on now with the powers that be, I'd probably be sat here in a really good position thinking, you know what, we can really go at a time. But that's just not going to happen. I'm not going to even be able to force myself into training and preparation to even kind of force a time. So this one's going to be purely on just doing it alone. We just have to take it at our own pace. If it's a terrible time, it's a terrible time. But hey ho, I'm out there and I'm going to try and get it done. Charity wise, from that, I don't actually have a name charity spot per se. This has just been an open entry for myself. If I do any kind of fundraising, it'll be for Andy's Man Club. That'll be the decision on that, and obviously any kind of funds that can maybe made. But I'm not even committed, and I don't. This isn't anything shoddy on Andy's Man Club. I just don't want any more pressure on my life just now, especially anything financial. Is just yeah, it's better just now just to avoid anything with finances and stuff, like even in that respect. So just now my mindset just now is let's go do the Edinburgh half. The meaning behind that is obviously going to be hugely significant. The Monday, that's on the Sunday, the 26th of May, my birthday, my 36th birthday will be on Monday, the 27th of May, which will mark a year since D-Day. Let's just call it D-Day. In my little story, for anybody that doesn't know that, I'm just going to point you back to some earlier episodes for context, as I didn't really have the best birthday last year, for want of a better words. I know a lot of you know that. Anyway, so we don't need to delve on that for too long. So it'll be quite interesting to see how far I've came in a year. I know I've came really far. I know just now, even hear my own voice in the headphones. I know I sound different to what I usually do. I know I sound a little bit duller, a little bit deeper. But that just comes with the tiredness and exhaustion that's filled us. And you know, it's not me just feeling this way. I know that there is going to be a hell of a lot of people listening to this that's probably thinking, yeah, you know what, I freaking financially don't know where I'm going. I'm scared. You know, it's an unknown. Like I said, we don't like talking about finances at all. Um, you know, you don't even want to show off money. Well, I don't. You never want to show off if you have any money any point. Um, you know, just know that there's a lot more people going through it than what meets the eye. And you know, if anybody wants to reach out and talk, you know where I'm at. Give me a message. Andrew's Anxiety Adventure. Um, across on Facebook at the Borderline Podcast. You know, anytime, just give me a message because I know how tough it is. But it's really good to come on and talk about it and get this part off my chest. So it's been yeah, it's been hard, and like we talk about depressive cycles, my anxiety this year has I don't want to say because the last couple of weeks it has been pretty brutal, but up until the last couple of weeks, anxiety symptom wise, I have to admit it's been so good and so minor affected me this year, which is really good. That's a good kind of sense of direction to what's going on just now. It's just the depression, just the depression just now that's just kicking me and it's exhausting me because as you know, no, nobody's immune, as Nima said, Nima Amira in that podcast, which was good. I hope you guys listened to that. It was a really good one. I know the audio quality wasn't the best, but as he said, nobody's immune from poor mental health. One time in our life, subjectively, you will go through a mental health crisis. Now, whether how you conduct yourself and how you hold yourself during that crisis is completely subjective to the individual. Yeah, as say, like most people with depression will understand that cycle, that you feel like you're getting out of it, then you end up back in it. You have a little setback, which to some people again can be totally circumstantial as well. Like we're talking about setbacks. A setback for me is just waking up in a bad mood. That's enough for me just to have like another 3 days of it. It's just, and I can't shake it off. I'm not one of these people that, just shake it off, just shake it off. No, I'm not. Depression. Again, subjective to every individual. When my depression hits me, there's nothing I'm doing. I'm gonna function at work. I'm gonna put a smile on my face at work and get that work done. I love my job, and when I get in, I'm gonna go out for a dog walk, and then I'm probably just going to sit on the couch for the rest of the day and talk to Sass, make tea, and do the same again, and wait for it to pass. And yeah, so that's pretty much where I've been for for the majority of this year. It's just been a headache. So I like to say, I hope this kind of understands why I have been so quiet. I've just really not wanted to come and talk about how shit I felt when I felt really, really, really shit, and just kind of like, I understand my situation. I understand that even after doing this episode, I'm not going to feel great. Let's be honest. The anxiety that always comes with releasing a podcast episode, especially with this kind of subject attached, is always going to play up a little bit. But this is just something that I need to get back into for myself, and just take this step. Very, very, very slow steps just now. Going forward, I know, like I'd say April. Well, I'm going to get into statistics in a second. Actually, that just flagged something in my head. I know that April, I was kind of planning on, getting a couple hundred plays under the belt, some more guest shows. I've had to put a couple of guest shows back, just in light of how I've been feeling. It's just, it wouldn't be fair to bring a guest on. I would say even the last one I done with Nathan Sherratt, I was not in a good frame of mind that day. And for me, I mean, I can look at myself in the on the episodes being the video one, or I can hear my voice and I can just know the difference. I can know the difference straight away with how I'm feeling. And the difference between that and that Nima Amiri's was, on Nima's day, I was on a very good day. I was in a very nice place. Had a really good, clear line of thinking. I could think of questions really fast. And I was really, engaged and attached with the conversation. Absolutely no disrespect to Nathan whatsoever. This was my problem going into that episode. I didn't want to cancel it because it would have been such short notice, and I understand how busy he is. And yeah, it was quite a hard one for me to kind of sit down and just talk to somebody. It can be really, really, really hard sometimes. And yeah, so there's that. I've also, the fact that I've not been able to attend an Andy's Man Club since it opened in I'm up as well. That's been on the back of my mind. I still won't get the opportunity tonight. I'm working tonight, so that again, when we're talking about tiny little things, that's the things for me that like kind of build up. I'm like, fucking hell, like there's one more thing on the list you've got to do. Even though you don't, that's the craziest thing. You don't need to do it. There's nothing wrong with coming in. You know, I've been up since 4:30. There's nothing. You finish at 2 p.m. There's nothing wrong with coming in at 2 p.m. and just thinking, you know what, I ain't doing anything else today. That's me done. I've exhausted myself physically and mentally. I just want some time for me, but in my own little head, it's a you have to do this, you have to do this. So yeah, there's that as well. That hasn't been helping because, like I say, I'm a big advocate for talk therapy and what it can do to you, and especially in a social group. But I know that group, that charity will work really well for me, which is why I want to, obviously attach myself to it and do a lot of fundraising for Andy's Man Club. I think it's absolutely terrific. Um, it's a game changing charity for Britain just now, for men especially. And to see it still going from strength to strength is just absolutely brilliant. So any Andy Man clubbers that are maybe listening and thinking, well, he's never turned up. There's been reasons. I've just not quite been at that place yet to go and talk openly. I will just be honest when I talk about it, and I don't want to drop down the mood any further. I know there has been active worry. I don't deal well with suicide ideation, and I don't do that. That goes hand in hand with depression as well, doesn't it? I've not been that bad. No, I'm not. I'm not immune from feeling these thoughts. But when we look into the ideation side of doing an acting, we've got nowhere close to there. So that is good and that is promising, because that is a place that still scares the shit out of me to go back to there, and that's somewhere that we don't want to go back in. So that's what I'm saying. I'm just taking things incredibly slowly just now, doing them at my own pace, and yeah, hopefully very soon we're going to start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel again. I'll get some guests back onto you, and and we'll get moving with the podcast again going forward, because it's such, for me, it's such a good therapy, just to get on and talk. I was actually at Stag Do on Saturday, which was really fun. Anxiety was actually, yeah, was pretty bad that day. Let's not go lie. Down in Newcastle, go karting was fun, and just Lefty, cheers for all organising it as well. But yeah, a couple of people came across, spoke to me that I hadn't spoken to in years, and was just saying that they listened to a couple of episodes, and it's helped them, or they know somebody that's helped, and it's just really refreshing to hear that, especially when you are struggling and you haven't been open with the audience per se, into why that is, then to hear people, it just really helps. So thank you so much for anybody that has dropped messages over the last wee while, checked in, or just had a nice little word to say about the podcast. It really helps, and yeah, that's all I can really say about that. So I'm just gonna finish off this episode. I mean, this isn't going to be a very long one. Just for what I do hopefully have planned coming up, in the near future. Like I say, although we're going to be moving at very slow pace, there is stuff coming up. So I do have a couple of planned podcasts, via the matchmaker guests as well coming up. I don't know what you guys think as part of an audience. I'm a very spiritual person, and I want to bring that into the podcast as well eventually, and look at things from another perspective. The scientific approach is always good, but a spiritual approach can mean a lot more to certain people. And I'm a massive advocate that you should look at everything with an open mind. And yeah, so that's something that I'm hoping to be putting together just now. I've got a guest, we're in conversation just now, and I'm really hoping, hopefully by the end of the month, we'll be able to deliver that episode to you. I am in contact. Well, I may as well say this now. I've not put anything on Instagram about it. And I know you're going to say, what? You've just been saying that you're going to take things slow, and then I'm going to deliver this with a little bit news to you. But this should have been done in my mind. We're going back like 4 weeks. Like, I'm 4 weeks behind with this. So I am looking at the navigation of releasing a second podcast channel. I Mental health will always be the number one subject for me in my life. It is my passion. It's what I believe I'm here to do, and to inform, to raise awareness, to try and possibly make somebody's life a little bit more manageable by sharing mistakes and issues that I've came across along the way. So mental health. But anybody that knows me, through and through outside of the podcast, will know that I've got an incredible open mind to anything else. Now, I don't want to be labeled crazy. I know a lot of people will probably think that, but I'm wanting to release a second channel of the podcast, and that is to dive far more into the paranormal side of what goes on in the world. Like I say, I've got a very open mind. There is a lot of stuff that I do believe in. I would say as well, it's important to note now, there's even more stuff that I don't believe in. But I am very open to different possibilities. Like I've said before, I've always wanted to do the kind of Bigfoot episode. It's a subject that is just so close to my heart. I really do. When you look at the biology, I could say I could just start just now. I could talk for about 3 hours on it. I have to limit what I say, or else I just go. For me, it's the evolution, and it's missing step in man, and that's why it's such a big, anthropologically, it's such a massive subject, and it's important that you should stay true. Again, Lachlan, I'll say off this, it kind of inspired me in some ways, because he's doing things with his show and his podcast now, or has been, his YouTube, and releasing content that is true to himself. And I've taken a little bit of that on board myself, and I thought, you know what, I have the capabilities now. I've got the equipment, I've got the know-how. Why don't I just go out and do it? And it's something that maybe you can enjoy without that anxiety twist to it as well. It's something a little bit more, and something a little bit refreshing. So yeah, so I've been looking at avenues of that, but like I say, that is not going to be anything fast. Probably towards the end of the year. is realistically where I'm going to start putting content like that out again. But or again to start off with. But yeah, if you guys have got any suggestions with that, like I say, I'm in contact with a couple of people from America. Somebody from the BFRO, which is the Bigfoot Research Organization. If anybody watched Finding Bigfoot, you know who they are. That was a terrible program, by the way. Please don't believe anything you see on that show. Bloody bobo. And yeah, so I hopefully get somebody like that on as well. Like I say, we're going down different avenues. Yeah, I'm just wanting to have a little bit of fun with the podcast as well. And so what else is coming up? Music. That's just taking a back seat as well the last couple of weeks. Music was creating music and doing my own kind of thing with music. Many of you know I'm trying to learn how to sing. Um, yeah, it's just not really been cutting it either the last couple of weeks. So I've kind of taken my foot off the gas with that a little bit. Maybe just got a little bit too ahead of myself. When I was releasing stuff on the Instagram page, it's just that anxiety that comes with it that you're like, my God, I sound like it's weird because like, sometimes you listen to yourself and you're like, hey, tell you what, that's actually not bad. And then you hear it again, you're like, why did I think that was not bad? That's terrible. And then you listen to it and you think, well, isn't that bad? And then you make the definitive marker that no, that is actually terrible. Just take it off. So that's pretty much what goes through my head every single time I release anything. And it's that battle of if something stays, then it stays. If he dies, he dies. Good old Rocky with that one. Oh, poor Apollo. And yeah, so music as well. I've actually been writing some really nice songs. Like I said, I did release Clarence across on Instagram, which is a bit of a love song towards Sass. And yeah, in fact, if you've not actually went and listened to Clarence, I'd like everybody to go and listen to Clarence. It's a song that I've written that is about love and suicide. That is what it is. I can't paint it in any other way. It's how I feel, how strong my wife is, and how underappreciated she is. A lot of people, and I like I say, plaudits before. Really great to have people coming up to you and saying, this is brilliant. It's really good that the podcast is taking off. It's really helping me. There's a lot of people behind the scenes to this podcast, although it's like minuscule in size against anything else. There's a lot of people supporting it in their own way. Sass is one of that she has to. She's center of everything I do in my life. So, you know, there's a lot of upset and hurt that you know what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm trying to say. And I wanted to write a song about that, and that's what Clarence is. So again, if you do decide to go and listen to it, just don't focus on the actual singing itself. This is the message that I'm trying to get out with that. Don't just bing on and my God, I can't listen to me. So just listen to the lyrics, and you might relate to that. Is what I'm trying to say with that. So there we go. So yeah, I've got a couple other songs written, but I'm not going to go ahead and release them or anything like that. I just want to be happy with them. Maybe I'll never release them. Who knows? It's not like I'm going to be famous off them. That's what I'm trying to say. It's just a hobby. It's just a hobby, but it's a hobby that's given me a lot of satisfaction of late. And yeah, I kind of want to keep that going with music because, like I say, it's really healthy to have these habits, these loves and that you pick up. It's just now, again, going back to what I was talking earlier about depressive cycles and whatnot. When you're in a depressive cycle, nothing really makes you that happy. Externally, it takes a lot to get anything going. Usually, like I say, I tend to have to just wait it out. I talk openly, to people, not daily, but a couple of times a week. Talk therapy for me is massive. It helps me massively. But other than that, time is my best friend. And when it comes to healing stuff like this, I know now it just takes time. Well, it's shit while you're in it at the time. It is going to get a little bit better. So anybody listening that relates to anything that I've said in context, it doesn't even have to be finances. It could be absolutely anything. It does pass. This too shall pass, and you'll never walk alone. Oh, I actually just realised what today is as well. So the 97. That's even a little bit more significant. Yeah, so I'm actually just going to end this podcast here. I don't really want to keep on talking about depression, but I felt like I really want to do an episode just to come on and just to explain, why things have been so quiet. And like I said, I wasn't going to go into the massive, great details of everything around that. This is just enough of a step just now for me to take, which I'm quite happy that we've managed to navigate through a little 40-minute episode and to keep the flow of the podcast going. So, yeah, once more, guys, for those of you that messaged, spoke to me over the last couple of weeks or months, I really do appreciate it. And I know I've not been on top. I know I've not been as open as I like to be, but this has just taken a little bit of time to pass, and responsibly, we're just wanting to move things at a little bit of a slower pace with that. So I'm sure you guys will appreciate that no end, and I really do love every single one of you for listening in. So again, we shall speak again very, very, very shortly. Hopefully, we'll shift this depressive cycle. Like I say, we're coming out the end of the tunnel with it. We're seeing the light, and we are making small little baby steps. So thank the Lord. Yeah, we'll just end that one here, guys. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. This has been Andrew Willox with the Borderline Podcast. Good night.